Okay, so section 3.3 is parts of the nervous system. So we're going to be talking about, how your brain and the rest of your body communicate with that. And within your nervous system, you have two major divisions, right? So you have your central nervous system and your peripheral nervous system. So that central nervous system is going to be your brain and your spinal cord. So things that are like directly connected to the brain. And then the peripheral is like everything within the periphery. So if you think about like your peripheral vision, things that you don't see in the main part, but still very important for your vision. Similarly, your central nervous system is going to be that brain and all of the, brain stuff happening up there. And then the peripheral nervous system is everything else that's still very important for you to communicate. So that central nervous system, brain and spinal cord, peripheral nervous system is going to be all of your nerves going out from that, basically connecting your body to that spinal cord, right? And sending messages from the brain and spinal cord back out into these different parts of your body, right? So the peripheral nervous system has some interesting different parts. So basically, when we're thinking about divisions of the brain or of the nervous system, we can think about it like this, right? So we have central and peripheral, right? And then the peripheral breaks off into a couple different parts. So first, we've got the somatic and the autonomic. And then the autonomic, we're going to see in a second, splits off into two as well. So if you want to think about it as kind of like that tree, right? So your somatic nervous system, you can think of as like voluntary, normal sensory experiences, right? So that's where, if you touch something, you feel that touch sensation on your nerves and your fingertips. That is sent through the nerves all the way to your spinal cord and brain, and then processed in the brain, and then the brain can send more information out back to your fingertips. So things like that, where it's like voluntary, intentional motor movement, sensory information, things like that. Then we have the autonomic nervous system. So that autonomic you can think of as being like automatic. So it's these parts of like our functioning that we don't necessarily have control over. It just happens, right? Like you don't sit there and think to yourself all day, okay, breathe, okay, have your heartbeat, okay, digest your food. Those are all things that just happen automatically. And that's all from that autonomic nervous system. But within that autonomic nervous system, we also have this separation between the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. So your sympathetic nervous system is going to be when you're in like a high arousal, high stress situation. So things like your fight or flight response. And then your parasympathetic is normal functioning, your regular relaxed functioning, the way that you exist when you aren't having this high arousal situation. So basically, one will be during high stress, and then once that high stress situation is over, you'll switch back into that parasympathetic nervous system and kind of rest, relax, calm back down. So we can think about these parasympathetic and sympathetic as the fight or flight, and then the rest and digest. So your sympathetic nervous system is going to be things where when you are faced with something incredibly stressful, high arousal, high danger and threat, right? You're going to have things that can keep you alive for the next few minutes are going to come into play, and things that you can survive without for a little while are going to go away, right? So basically it's your body and brain saying, okay, here's a threat, and I need to deal with this threat right now or I'm going to die. So things like your pupils dilating, right? That allows more vision information to come in. Your heart rate is going to increase. Your bronchi are going to dilate. So that means you're getting more oxygen into your lungs. You're also going to have kind of like your muscles tense up and ready to go. So you can like run away if you need to or fight if you must. And it's also going to put some things on the back burner, things like salivation and digestion. I can survive for 30 minutes without digesting my food, right? Things like sexual functioning, that can be put away. Bladder, put away. I don't need any of that for the next 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes in order to survive this encounter. So all of that stuff that you can live without for a little bit is going to get put away, but we can't live like that forever, right? You can't just stop digesting forever, and you can't be in this high arousal state forever where you're using up more energy than you normally do, right? You're like eating through that ATP that your body has. So as soon as the threat is over or you are fully exhausted and can no longer do fight or flight, you're going to go into a parasympathetic nervous system reaction. from that sympathetic, right? Where you're resting, you're digesting. So things like digestion, salivation start again. Your heart rate slows back down to normal. Your bronchi constrict back to their normal amount, allowing the typical amount of oxygen into your lungs. Sexual functioning, bladder is going to start to happen again. So all of those like normal functioning things are going to start happening again.